Welcome back to the most transparent head coach in America. Herrion Holds Court with Wildcat men's basketball coach Bill Herrion. Coach, last time we did this was the end of February, so we have a lot of catching up to do on things. In fact, it was right at the end of the regular season before the tournament. And so let's start there with the end of the regular season, a very good regular season, very positive regular season, and the postseason ended earlier than we wanted to.
Yeah, unfortunately, Murph, it did. I think everything considered with where we started back in it's been over a year now since we've been in this pandemic. I think all things considered, I think we should all be really proud of the guys. I know I am. To get through 19 basketball games, we did finish as a 3 seed in the America East, which was our highest seed at UNH in the last 26 years since the 95 team. And one of the highest, I think, in the last 35 years. So I think all in all, it was a good group, a really good group. And I say this, I think when we were sitting here a year ago or in last summer or fall, when we were having these Zooms, I think the team that we envisioned play, for the most part, getting a majority of the minutes this year and being on the floor was not the team that we really kind of ended the season with, particularly in the backcourt, with Sean Sutherland missing a whole season with surgery on his hip labrum, with Josh Hopkins only playing 4 basketball games and then having season-ending surgery on his knee, not knowing Nick Johnson as a redshirt freshman coming off a torn ACL, Blondo Chichengyu coming off a ruptured patella tendon. So, it was crazy. I mean, playing UMass Lowell, I've never been in a situation where you play one team 4 consecutive times. We got beat by a really good Lowell team. Very disappointing finish, getting the home pod and hosting that home quarterfinal game. And, Lowell played better than we did. We made a great run at the end of the game and we cut it to, I think, 2 or 3. And they just were a better team that day. So, but I think all in all, really, really proud of the guys this past year.
And some nice hardware at the end of the season for individuals, as you get all conference first team for Jaden Martinez. Nick Guadarrama ends up in the second team, Chris Lester all academic team, and it was a coin flip all year long as to who the rookie of the year would be in America East, and they were both Wildcats, with Nick getting the slight nod over Blondo.
Yeah, exactly, Murph. I think, I've said this publicly, and I just had, Jaden Martinez is heading home. I think we should all, even as alums and fans, we should be really, really proud of these guys. I mean, we came back to school at the very end of August, and we started classes, I want to say August 30th. These kids weren't allowed to, obviously, to go home for Thanksgiving because we play the league scheduled conference games right around Christmas to keep a lot of the school's players on campus and not send them home so they would not bring the virus back to campus. We had our Christmas Day in Lundholm Gymnasium, and then Coach Mack was kind enough to let us use his locker room. We put a little portable Christmas tree in the football locker room because they had a big screen in there, and all the players' families, we made videotapes, and that was their Christmas. And Jaden Martinez, for example, has not been home to San Antonio to his family and his parents in 8.5 months. And I just had a kind of an end of the year meeting with him today. And when you look at a kid like Jaden and the strides that he's made from freshman year to now, was not on an all rookie team, was not on an all conference team as a sophomore, and makes an unbelievable jump this year to first team all conference. Nick Guadarrama went from third team all conference to second team. Arguably, I think Nick Guadarrama could have been a first team all conference player. And then, we knew Nick Johnson was a good player when we recruited him out of All Hallows High School in the Bronx, New York. But then, you tear your ACL, you never know how players are going to recover off of these kind of injuries. And, the second half of the year when we put Nick Johnson into the starting lineup, when we made that trip down to Stony Brook, I want to say back in January, and we swept Stony Brook down at Stony Brook, we started Nick the rest of the way, and he had a great second half of the season, rookie of the year, all rookie team. And Blondo at the end of the year really got the minutes at the point guard position and was on the all rookie team. Chris Lester, when you use the term student athlete, and I know as coaches, we use that a lot with our players, but I think Chris Lester, as you all know, that have followed this program, Chris Lester totally epitomizes what a student athlete is. I mean, he got his MBA last year in the 1-year master's program in the business school. He's getting a master's in finance this year, and he is returning for, I want to say it's going to be his 6th year, I believe, next year with like a 3.95, 3.98 GPA. So, we're very, very pleased and very proud and happy with that.
So how has the access to the team been in spring? How many days did you have them? Who's been doing what? Can you update us on since the regular season ended to where we are now?
Yeah, once the season ended, once we lost the quarterfinal game to Lowell, we just took 2 weeks. We said, listen, guys, 2 weeks, nothing. We don't need you in the gym. There's nothing mandatory going on. But, here's what I really, really like about this team and previous teams is we've really, I think, developed a culture here of guys that just really love the game. And these guys are in the gym constantly. They're gym rats. When I said, don't come around for 2 weeks, 2, 3, 4 days after the last game, they're all back in the gym. And that's what I really, really like. And I want you as fans to know this. I really like the returning group of players that we have coming back next year. For example, we stopped. So in the spring, what the NCAA gives you is you get 8 hours a week in the spring to work out with your players. 4 hours on the court, basketball wise, 4 hours in the weight room. I'll tell you, my assistant coaches from Chris Moore to Jordan Bronner to Ryan Herrion, these guys have done a terrific job of putting an awful lot of time in with skill work and skill development with these players. I think we've had a great spring. The one area I think that we really kind of overlooked is when the pandemic hit a little over a year ago, and obviously we had no contact with anybody live, and then we came back to school. We missed about a whole year of weightlifting, of just developing bodies. So a real emphasis this spring was in the weight room. We had a good, and last Friday was technically the last day of any organized workouts with our guys. From our standpoint, the last official day of workouts, NCAA wise, is this Thursday. But again, I just left the gym this afternoon at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and we had 5 players: Nick Guadarrama, John Willman, Blondo, Nick Johnson, and slipping on one. Chris Lester was at the other end of the court on the gun with Coach Moore. We had 5 guys in the gym today. These guys, they love being in the gym, and that's as a coach, it's a comforting feeling. I'd rather them in there than somewhere where you don't know that they are, So that's what kind of drives me. And I think that's what drives our staff is I really think we have a lot of hungry basketball players in this program that were not happy with the way this season ended. And here's the thing that we're selling on our basketball team. Everything we're talking about with these guys is we're chasing a championship. Right now we are to a point where all of our language, all of our communication with these guys is all about how do we win a championship next year, the things we need to do to win a championship. I feel that confident with this group. I really like the players that we have coming back, and I really like the incoming class that we have.
Yes, we can go either direction as far as some players who are not returning and some players who are here, but it all stems from this wonderful transfer portal, Coach. So you probably see what the names look like. It's not supposed to be public, but things leak. So now that it's come to pass and you have a chance to probably glance at this, how is Bill Herrion, how are the Wildcats looking at the transfer portal?
Yeah, it's unfortunately, I think a lot of us coaches that have been in the game a long time, I don't think any of us ever envisioned the recruiting going this way. I don't. Um, I think it's kind of like I think that the portal and the ability to transfer first time and not have to sit out a year, it's almost become like free agency, so to say. Um, I think it's really, really is detrimental to our level of basketball because let's not kid ourselves. I think schools, if you get a really good player at this level, I would think back to, I would hate to see what would have happened 25, 30 years ago when Malik Rose was with us at Drexel. If there was this transfer portal in play back then, God almighty, he would have had 50 schools after him. You know, yeah, but what it's also done is it's forced your recruiting to now recruit out of the transfer portal. It's okay. You got to make a decision. We've always tried to build this program on 4-year kids. We always have. I think anybody that follows us, you get a good group, you develop them, they get better, they get older, and then you recruit a good incoming class, and then you develop them, and the program continues, the continuity continues. Now your decisions are okay, and it's like I remember Notre Dame had a really good run going a few years back with Mike Bray, who used to coach at Delaware when I was at Drexel. And, he's been at Notre Dame for a while, and he had a really good run with like transfers, older guys. And he came out and said, you know what? The whole key nowadays is to get old and stay old. It's very, very hard to win with young teams right now. It really is. So yeah, it's a decision of, do you take a high school kid that's going to take time to develop, or do you take a proven college player that's already proven it at a higher level? And I'm not saying like we've made a decision one way or the other. It's not a philosophical thing with us right now. It's just the lay of the land, Murph, right now. It's where it's at.
Do you talk with the other head coaches to decide, here's how we have to change in our profession in dealing with somebody who may come to you and say, I'm not playing enough, or I'm thinking about going into the transfer portal? Not to say necessarily you have to be nicer, but it's not because of these options out there and it's so new. Is it something where you talk to other head coaches and say, how are you addressing this? And are you, Bill Herrion, finding yourself changing from what you would have been even a couple of years ago?
No, I think what you all got to, usually when players leave your program, I think outside everybody says, uh-oh, something's wrong there. I think people have to pump the brakes on that nowadays. I think this is the norm right now, if you hear what I'm saying. I don't think there's really any control over it because it's so easy for these kids to transfer now. It's not like, back in the day where, okay, if you want to transfer, you're going to have to sit out a year. And some kids might hesitate because they don't want to sit out a year. Now, when you transfer your first time Division I to Division I, you don't have to sit. You're eligible immediately. So no, I don't think it can really change how you coach. I think it might give the players a little bit more of a, I don't know. It's an easy way out, I guess. If you're with me, you're right. If I'm not playing or I'm not happy or whatever, I think it's an easy way to get out. And it's kind of where it's at.
And not every conference does this, but America East did announce that even within the conference, you could transfer from one school to another. That's got to be somewhat sticky when you think about, yes, you're rivals, but you're certainly colleagues with these coaches. Trying to pluck somebody from somewhere else in the conference, it hasn't happened yet to the best of my knowledge, but it now will be allowed.
Yes, the presidents last Friday in the America East passed the Intra conference transfer rule, where now players within our league, the America East, you can transfer to another America East school with no penalty and be eligible right away. in the past, I think we had a 2-year, like if you tried to transfer school to school in the league, I think it was a 2-year sit out. So you would never see that because nobody wants to sit out for 2 years. We had a head coach's Zoom last week, and on the Zoom, I spoke to one of the coaches after the Zoom where, how can we prevent this? I don't know how you prevent this in your league, but maybe as head coach, the 10 head coaches in the America East, we maybe have to get together and say, listen, let's make a gentleman's agreement on this, that if somebody wants to transfer from another school in our league to, you know what, we can always say no. We're not going to do that. Now, I don't know if I know I would agree to that. I don't know if the other 9 head coaches would agree to that, but that might be a possibility. Hey, Murph, give me 1 second, please. You got to continue your talk. Give me 1 second, please.
All right. Again, this is a reminder. People can feel free to put.
I'm not going anywhere now.
No, we don't want you going anywhere. We finally have you. So as we're talking about players leaving the program, and we should note in our football league, the CAA, it's happened where players will leave and go to another school in the league. In Hockey East, it certainly has happened. So we'll see how America East goes. And sometimes your players leave and they get the chance to play it at a higher level. And Sean Sutherland's name you brought up before, he was such a great player 2 seasons ago now. Injuries derailed what would have happened this season, and now he gets a chance to go to the Big Ten. Can you kind of talk about how that process played out and your thoughts on Sean as he moves on to the Golden Gophers?
Yeah, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I think the coaching staff will agree. Sean really handled this, totally above board. We thought, like I said, a year ago right now, we thought going into this year, Sean Sutherland, was with us for 1 year last year, his first year with us, and had a great year. He's a very talented player. And we thought with him coming back, he was going to be obviously a major piece of what we were doing this year. He had a hip issue last year where he missed a couple games, but we thought we had it under control. And then when he came back in September and we started working out, he felt more pain. Long story short, we got him hooked up with a top-level orthopedic guy in Boston, and he had an MRI, and he had a torn labrum in his hip. Sean he's from right outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's very, very close to his family, very, very close. A real kind of homebody. And we let Sean, the orthopedic surgeon that we knew in Boston was a friend of mine from a Holy Cross connection. He knew a top hip surgeon in Minneapolis, and we let Sean go home right around Christmas time and have the surgery done back in Minneapolis. And he stayed and rehabbed it, and he had all his classes online. He texted us in early February and said that he wanted to put his name in the portal. And he just wanted to kind of test the waters, so to say. And we kind of felt all along that I think he wanted to pursue was there a possibility of going to his hometown school, the University of Minnesota. So he was up front with everything. And then we kept Zooming with Sean. So everybody understands we were Zooming with him once a week. And then it finally got to a point probably about a month ago where, because, if Sean wasn't going to come back, then we obviously had to move on and get a player. And we said to Sean, listen, here's the deal. I got a call from the head coach, Conzo Martin, the head coach at Missouri in the Big 12, called me on Sean, and obviously Minnesota. So I think it's kind of a dream come true for Sean. We supported him and we wish him the best of luck, going to the Big Ten. But he's home, and I think he's really happy with that.
And other departures come as a result of what we talked about earlier. You're deeper. The team is talented. There's competition for these positions. And then you had the breakout performances of Blondo and Nick Johnson. Then you have Quan Murphy suddenly eligible. So your backcourt looked completely different than what you expected. And that's how it works. There's only so many positions, and others look for opportunities elsewhere.
Yes. Marquis Malsby, was in a position of, at the point guard position, sharing minutes with Blondo. Blondo played very, very well down the stretch this year. And then Blondo started getting more minutes at the end of the year and starting And I think Marquis just, he made a decision, and he was upfront with us that he just felt it was better for him to move on, and we supported him. And he decided to go into the portal, and I don't think he's made a decision yet, Murph, on where he's going to go. Meek Mispayne. Meek's a great kid. Was with us for 2 years. I think Meek's situation is just more that he's a front court player. There's a log jam in the front court with all conference players. Taylor Matos came in from Bowling Green as a transfer. Chris Lester. We're bringing in Sloan Seymour, who's one of our recruits, who started off his career at Siena College up in Albany, New York. Big time 3-point shooter. He made 94 threes his freshman year at Siena in the MAC conference, which I believe is a freshman record at Siena. His head coach left Siena and took the head coaching job at George Washington University down in DC. And Sloan was very, very connected with his head coach, Jamion Christian, and then went down to GW with Jamion and had a city year, and then played most of this year and decided that, he wanted to get back up to the Northeast. So we're very happy to have Sloan. So I think Meek was caught in a numbers game, and Meek is going to probably go to a Division II school out closer to home in Colorado, closer to Arizona.
All right. One question came in from our fans, and feel free to type one to the chat. It says, are you looking at making any changes to the offense this season to get Taylor Matos, who you mentioned earlier, some more touches?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and please, everybody ask questions. I would rather you ask the questions and let me answer. I kind of wrote some notes down, to talk. I think for our basketball team to take the next step next year and really, really compete and challenge for a championship, I think there's kind of 4 things that we have to really do as a team. I think number one is, I thought we took a slip a little bit this year defensively, just collectively as a team. It was, and now I don't know if that's pandemic, if that's just the year it was, but we've got to get back to kind of who we are defensively, being a dominant defensive team in our league. We slipped. We've always been a terrific rebounding team. We've got to rebound the ball better. And I said, one thing I wrote down was that, Taylor Matos has to be more of a factor for our basketball team, because he's a legitimate inside kind of 5-man at 6'9", 6'10". But, we didn't know if he was going to be eligible early in the year. Then the NCAA passed the rule that the transfers could be eligible, I think, in December. Then he unfortunately got his 2 front teeth knocked out against Albany. He missed a couple of weeks. He was just kind of in and out this year, if you hear what I'm saying. We did not have him last summer for summer school. I've said all along that what we need with Taylor is we need a full off season with him. He's had a really good spring. We are coming back for summer school this summer. And I want to just say, first of all, thank you to everybody on here, and thank you to everybody out there for your unbelievable support and generosity with the 603 challenge. And Jack Burns, who has really kind of spearheaded this for us the last few years, again, did a phenomenal job. And we talked about Jack, that one of the main goals of the 603 challenge financially was to try to help us support some summer school. I think, Murph, that Taylor Matos he had a good spring. Now he's got to have a great summer, a great 5 weeks in summer school. And we think he's going to be much more of a factor going into next year.
Next question is, on paper, is this year's team the most competitive 1 through 12 that you've had? And the follow-up is, practice should be very competitive as guys try to earn minutes.
I think so, Murph. I think it is. I will say this, and I'm not, I think you got to be so careful. Like what we have right now in our basketball program, I can honestly say this is probably 1 through 12 or so. We have a lot of good players. We've got a lot of good pieces. I'm a firm believer, and I think that's kind of, what hurt our basketball team this year was late in the year. We battled some injuries. Josh Hopkins missed the second half of the year with surgery. Obviously, Sean Sutherland was out the entire year. We were short on bodies, Murph, like the last month of the year. And I think it really limited our practices and how competitive our practices were. And I think that hurt how we played a little bit, especially with gaps between games. So I remember we were playing back-to-back weekend games. Then you'd have a week off. Then you'd play. And then we had like a lot of time late in the year off. I'm a firm believer, always have been as a coach, that, you play in games the way you practice. And yeah, I think the competitive environment in practice is going to be at a very, very high level when we come back and start up this summer.
Next question was, how many new players are from the transfer portal?
Two. I talked about Sloan Seymour, and I compare Sloan Seymour. When we started recruiting him and Zooming with him, he's an elite 3-point shooter at 6'9". 94 threes. That's a lot of threes. And a lot of you locally know Duncan Robinson, who's a local kid here and has spent a lot of time in our gym at UNH when he's home and when he was in high school, when he was younger. He's kind of a Duncan Robinson type of 3-point shooter. He's going to have a major impact on our basketball team. The other young man we got out of the transfer portal is a kid by the name of Marco Foster, who's a 6'2", 6'3", shooting guard. He's out of Lancaster, Texas. Very, very good high school basketball program, Lancaster High School. And then went to Oklahoma Christian University, which is a Division II school in Oklahoma. Division II basketball out in that part of the country is very, very, very competitive and very good. He made 62 threes this year in 18 games. He can really, really shoot the three. He made 107 threes his senior year in high school on a high school team that I believe has a really good player at TCU, I believe, Ryan, and another player on that high school team who's a top-rated kid in the country as well. Then we brought a high school recruit in, AJ Lopez, who's a 6'5" youngster out of Brooklyn, New York. He went to St. Francis in Queens in the New York City Catholic League, same league as Nick Johnson at All Hallows. Moved down with family to Florida and then finished his high school career at Mount Zion Prep, which is in Maryland. He's a 6'5" wing player. He shot 45%. And I think the other thing that I left off when I talked about our team taking the next step next year, like when you look at our perimeter shooting, we've almost done this thing in reverse here, so to say, from a position standpoint. Really, our two best 3-point shooters statistically, percentage-wise, in our program this year were Jaden Martinez was our best and Nick Guadarrama was our second best. And they're two front court players. I think for us to become a complete basketball team and become a complete offensive basketball team, we have to shoot the three better from the perimeter, from the guard spot. And that was a real key, a real emphasis with our recruiting this year.
And the good news is you have your expectations very low for Sloan Seymour as you compared him to Duncan Robinson, who just became the fastest player in NBA history to 500 3-pointers. So we look forward to Sloan filling those shoes when he gets here. All right, here's one for you. I know you have the answer to. Will the America East mandate that all players need to be vaccinated for next year? I know UNH hasn't made a decision yet as legislature balances this issue.
Yeah, that's a great question, Murph. And, the university has not mandated yet that all students be vaccinated. I don't think that's been a decision, right, Murph? Marty Scarano, our athletic director, and John Dana, the head of our athletic training, sent out an email last week where they're strongly encouraging all of our athletes to be vaccinated. I cannot force players to do it. It's their choice. But I think there's, for us to have a full season next year, which I feel very, very, very confident we're going to have a 30-game schedule and travel and all of that stuff and kind of get back to somewhat normalcy with playing. Right now, we've got about 3/4 of our team are vaccinated. UNH vaccinated in-state students about, I want to say, a month ago. John Willman and Taylor Matos are our two in-state New Hampshire kids. I want to say they're getting their second dose any day now. And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, UNH vaccinated all out-of-state students. So a handful of our out-of-state players got vaccinated. Our whole staff, I just got my second shot this past Friday. And I know Ryan, Jordan Bronner, and Chris Moore are getting their So we're 3/4 of the way there. I think the thing that if everybody's vaccinated, we're under the understanding that now if you come in close contact with anybody that does test positive, you don't have to quarantine anymore, which is it's a real advantage. And but just to keep everybody safe in society, we need. I think these guys. I think we'll have most of our team vaccinated.
You say a return to somewhat normalcy. Do you think a carryover might be, as this is another question, the back-to-back games? Will America East, do you think, still discuss that possibility?
Murph, I can't answer that. We did have a head coach's Zoom last week. And I think the direction that they're going to go is no, we're going to go back to like a normal conference schedule. The back-to-backs were tough. I think, when you go back, and here's my thing, let me just take a step back on this transfer portal and teams recruiting transfers. As of today in the transfer portal, there's 1,550 college players in the transfer portal today. Last year, the transfer portal ended at 1,025. In 2019, just 2 years ago, there was 988. So this trend is just it's not going in a real good direction, I don't think. I really feel sorry for high school kids. I feel if you're a high school youngster right now, there are going to be so many high school juniors and seniors, or seniors this past year, that are graduating. It's sad to say they're not going to be getting opportunities. Now, I think what's going to benefit, I would think, is probably the prep schools and say, okay, I got to go to another year of prep school, or I got to maybe go to a junior college just so I can get some exposure here, because everybody's recruiting out of the portal. I don't think we're going to, my point was, this past year, we played 4 consecutive weekends this year in our conference on back-to-back games. And in those 4 consecutive weekends, I'm not going to mention the 4 teams that we played in a row. Not one freshman on any of those 4 opposing teams got in a game. So there's your answer to now we played 2 redshirt freshmen this year, and KJ McClurg early in the year as a true freshman and the youngest player in our program was getting minutes, so, but now the tables are flipped a little bit. Now we're going to be older next year. We're not going to be real young. We're going to be, through players that have been in the program for 4 years and through, a couple of transfers that we're bringing in.
Question about the point guard position. Besides Blondo, who else do you see running the point?
Yeah, right now we've been working this spring with KJ McClurg, with Blondo at the point. We like KJ. If you remember last year, when we started the season, we were down some bodies early. Quan Murphy was not eligible yet. Sean Sutherland was out. Josh Hopkins was out. KJ McClurg started for us when we started the season last year. And in the second game of the year, in his first Division I game against Bryant, he had 18 points against a very, very good Bryant basketball team. So right now we're going to look at KJ as a point guard and Blondo, and then we have a number of other guys that can handle the basketball. So, we'll work that out.
So June 1 nationally is the end of this long dead period for any kind of recruiting. But where will men's basketball be on the recruiting calendar, and when can you maybe even get people on campus?
I might need some help with this from my assistants or even Ken Dempsey, who's on the call, I believe. I'm under the understanding, Murph, that when the dead period ends on June 1, that now I think prospective student athletes, right, guys, will be allowed to come onto your campus. Now, I don't know, Demps, if we still have a no visitor policy on campus, or has that been lifted yet? You with me? So after June 1st, I think we're allowed now to have players come on campus with their families for unofficial visits. I don't know if the recruiting calendar for us to go off campus and live recruit, I don't know if the dates and the events have been set yet.
The only thing that's happening right now is that the July portion of the calendar, because the basketball academies have been canceled, they're trying to figure out whether they're going to go. There's an option 1 and there's option 2 in terms of what's going on. That will get voted on May 19th with the NCAA Council. As far as June goes, the goal is that we can get people back on campus. We need the university to decide whether we're going to allow visitors. But those are all things that are working out. The most important thing is that the coaching staff is going to be out on the road starting at the end of June, and you're going to have your July recruiting period as well.
But Murph, what the university has already made a decision on, everybody should know, is that they're not allowing any summer camps this year for any of the sports, any of the teams. How we normally have a day camp and we can run an elite camp where you bring in prospective student athletes, and there's no camps this summer. I think they're just trying to clear the campus out as much as they can after a long year, and just kind of everybody, I think, needs a little bit of a rest here, because right now they're planning on opening next year, we're very, very fortunate as of right now that our administration is allowing us to come back for summer school. The 5-week summer session is a major key component to starting to put our team together, especially with the newcomers getting to now know the players on the team and building chemistry and preparing us for next year. It's enormous. It's really big.
And with the idea of spectators, the way that UNH did it this spring, only select events at Wildcat Stadium were allowing socially distanced, in the testing protocol, undergrad students who paid the athletics fee. So it was a baby steps to get people back into the venues. But as we look ahead, Coach, do you feel that there's a good chance we'll have fans when we get back to men's basketball season?
Hey, I think I've said this to you guys before, last summer when I had no option but to walk about 5 miles a day every day. I remember talking to fellow coaches, like, when I was walking, saying, you know what? Oh, we'll definitely have fans this coming year. And how wrong was I? I'm not going to lie to you. I think one of the biggest challenges that for coaching this year, coaching through this pandemic, was our guys, trust me, they did a great job showing up and playing hard and competing. That was never a question with me. But I think reality, a lot of you have been through this. When you come on the court and there's a band, or there's music, or there's 1,000 people in the stands, and there's just an atmosphere, it elevates, the play of the guys. For example, we were fortunate, we're a 3 seed this year. So in a normal year, we're hosting a first round conference game, and we did host this year, but with nobody there. If you remember the 3 years when we were the 4th seed and we hosted the first round 3 years in a row, that place was packed to the rafters. And trust me, that is a major, major motivator and a major home court advantage when you have that. So I'm hoping, Murph, that we get back to that from day one.
Another recruiting question. It seems America East in general is recruiting bigger players. Was adding another big a thought, an option this offseason?
No, I think because of this, here's the hard thing, what I think a lot of programs are juggling and struggling with is everybody's allowed an extra year because of this past year with the pandemic. Every player's allowed another year. So, for example, Nick Guadarrama and Jade Martinez, for example, are going to be seniors next year, but they can come back for the following year. So we got to be a little bit careful how we balance the roster, if you hear what I'm saying. They're not going to allow us to go over the number of scholarships that were allowed NCAA wise. That's not going to happen. I felt that it was important for me to have an early discussion with like Jaden Martinez and Nick Guadarrama to kind of get a feel that what are they thinking of a possible fifth year. And as of right now, both guys seem totally on board with it, which, makes me, trust me, we want them back for a fifth year. I think it can go such a long, long way in continuing their development as players and then helping us try to win a championship and preparing them to try to play at the next level. Yeah, we gave some thought early with another front court guy, but then we decided, no, we're okay with what we got right now.
So looking into the crystal ball about the games that we know we can talk about for non-conference next year, what do we have in the bankroll ready to come and play against our beloved Cats?
We again, and I think you guys know what our philosophy is here. And a lot of you, I think, will appreciate this and respect it because a lot of you grew up in New England and with New England college basketball, and whether it's the old Yankee Conference, whatever, and I grew up in New England. So we want to try to play as many non-conference games in the New England Northeast area. We've got Quinnipiac. We went there last year. That's the game where we came back the next day and when the whole team got COVID. They're coming to us this year. We're at Holy Cross, which is, I think, a great game. It's a great game for us. I think all of you would appreciate, the Holy Cross game. Central Connecticut is coming to us. We were down there 2 years ago. They didn't come last year to us because of the COVID. And we're at Bryant. We're at Dartmouth. Right now we are going to have to play. We've always played three what's called guarantee money games, where you go play up Power 5 conference school. They pay you. It helps the budget. This year, because of the pandemic and because of some financial, shortcomings, we got a lot of work to do. I think at UNH and our athletic department financially, a lot of work. And that's for the administrators, but Marty Scarano has said that we have to play a fourth guarantee game, which I'm on board. Whatever we need to do to help the program and help the department, we have an obligation to do that. That's my feelings on this. So right now we have a signed contract. We're going to play at Marquette on Friday, November 12th. We can open this year. The opening day to play college basketball is November 9th, which I think is a Tuesday. We're going to go to Marquette in the Big East on Friday, November 12th. We're going to Providence. Right now it's on November 30th at Providence. And we've had some discussion with UMass of going to UMass possibly maybe before Christmas. And we're trying to have some discussion with Boston College to try to keep everything kind of, as much New England and centrally located. Plus, hopefully, if fans are allowed to go to games by that point, it'll allow you as fans to get out and follow us and see us, especially at Providence or out of UMass. And now we got 18 conference games. We added NJIT last year, so there's 10 teams in the conference. That's 18 conference games. So you're down 2 non-conference games from previous because we added 2 league games with NJIT. So BC UMass is not, those are not confirmed. Providence and Marquette are signed contracts. Those are definitely going to be played.
And to Coach Herrion's point, if you go, you can Google search this, but back on April 20th, talk about full transparency, President Dean announced to the whole university community the extensive financial review of UNH athletics as a whole. So Coach, men's basketball is in a unique position to help, as you're talking about with these guarantee games. It's difficult, it's tough competition, but really there's no other sport, no other team that is in that position to help by playing those kind of games.
No, and we know that. I've been doing this a long time. So I've been at other schools where this has been going on forever. So this is nothing new for us. Yeah, are they hard games? There's no question about it. But you know what? We think we're going to be good. And, I think to get your kids exposure against that level, because if you're going to make the NCAA tournament, in the first round of the NCAA tournament, you're going to play a team of that caliber, maybe even, higher. Yeah, we're all on board with that. And you know what? Deep down inside, I think the players want to play these games. It's an opportunity for them to go into, normally the Providence Civic Center, the Dunkin' Donuts Center, Marquette, it's 15,000 people. It's a bigger environment. It's a high level of basketball.
Another question about the schedule was any plan to take part in a multiple team event?
No, you know what? Not right now this year. We thought we were going to be in one last year down at Brown. But then when the Ivy League obviously canceled their whole season last year, we had a good MTE down at Brown. Right now, we're not. I think we're allowed to play 29 regular season games, and then you have to leave one for the first round of your conference tournament. That's 30. I think we're going to go that route, Murph, right now.
Any non-D1 opponents that you're looking at?
I think that possibly there will be one. And I think what that does, well, here's the thing is last summer, remember we opened with Keene State this year. And the reasoning behind Keene State was last summer we were talking about, okay, we wanted to do something early in the year if fans were allowed back in to really recognize like all of the frontline workers through the pandemic, the doctors, the nurses, the EMTs. And we thought that possibly playing another state school where there's more connections from an alumni standpoint, that we might have been able to promote that and get a great crowd on that opening game last year. That was the plan. But obviously with no fans allowed in the building, we couldn't do that. So there's a possibility. We have not contacted a Keene State or a Plymouth State yet, but maybe this year it could be something if we were to play that we could just hold on and now honor our medical people appropriately, which I think they need to be in the right manner.
The last schedule related question was how many games do you have left to schedule for out of conference? Do you have a solid number there?
Yeah, I think we're going to have probably one, we got to get 2 more money games, guarantee games, and probably 1 other or 2 other, non-guarantee games. So yeah, we're working on a few things right now.
Going back to a previous topic, question came in asking about the scholarship money continue for a player in year 5. How will you work that?
Yes. But you have to stay the NCAA rule is Division I men's basketball programs across the board have 13 full scholarships. Now, I think some schools, if I'm not mistaken, my staff can maybe, or administrators on the call can talk to this. I think because of this COVID year that you can go over the 13 and honor if you have that money budgeted, or you with me, if you have it available. We can't do that. We have to stay at 13. So whether we bring somebody back for a 5th year, it has to fall within, they would get that scholarship, but it has to fall within our 13 scholarships, if that makes any sense. Like, we can't have 13 and then bring a kid back and he's above and beyond the 13, if you're with me. So it has to stay at 13. So that's why it's kind of a juggling act here. Like, it's a tough one, because, you could lose a player next year in April or May, you know what I mean? And now if it's an older player, an experienced player, one of your key guys at our level, it's very, very hard to replace those players that late. So I think it's important to know, like, what's going through with these guys in their minds and their futures.
And the next one is, are they going to put more games on ESPN Plus? And does UNH get any money from that?
Boy, I think I'm the wrong guy to ask that question to. I'll be honest with you. I'm really, really satisfied, I think, with the way that ESPN, with the Plus and ESPN3 and our ability, Murph, as you well know, to produce, right, our own games. I think our quality of production at UNH is second to none, personally. I think when I watch the copies and the tapes of our games, it's like you're watching just a regular ESPN game. Now, I hope what we can add to that next year to make the whole production better, and can we put people in the seats? Then it becomes, then it's back, and I'm hoping, if we're allowed fans to start the year, I'm hoping that people, after maybe not going to many events this past year, will be so maybe itchy to get out and just go, support a team. But that's going to come through a lot of promotion as well, too.
And I'll add this. We have, of course, Brendan Glasheen and John Scheinman, the two best America East ESPN announcers going. And it was Amy Huchthausen, the commissioner of America East, who had the forethought to put together this deal, which was an 11-year contract. So we have plenty of years left. Every home game is on either ESPN3 or ESPN Plus. That is what we don't know the difference. And clearly we know there is a difference, but the league and ESPN dictate which games end up on which platform.
And Murph, to add to that, I think when you play these guarantee games, like, for example, like at Marquette and at Providence, the Big East has an exclusive contract with Fox Sports. You know what I'm saying? So there's a possibility when we go to Marquette or we go to Providence that could get on Fox or Fox 2, and be nationally televised as well.
Well, Coach, we've done about an hour here. And the questions came in. Everyone is always appreciative of your time. And we have a long way to go, but it feels like it's closer because of all the information you shared. So thanks so much for everything. And I don't know if you want to have some parting comments for the broadcast part before you open it up for folks to talk with you.
Yeah, you know what? Again, I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy. And I really mean that. And I want to again say that thank you so much for everybody's generosity and support with this 603 challenge. It's tough times, and Jack and Paul Bamford and our whole crew, Norm, Ronnie, everybody who's on here. I don't know everybody that's on here that's with our committee. You guys, we couldn't do this without you. I really mean it. They did all the heavy lifting, and we did a great job with it. I'll say this again. I really, really, really like this basketball team. I like the substance of these guys. I like the character of these guys. I love their work ethic. And I know the new players we have coming in are just going to jump right on board with this. And, we're knocking on the door. I know I've said this, man, we really are. We're knocking on the door. But we have a lot of work to do. And it'll start when we come back on June 21st. Monday, June 21st will be the first day of the summer session. And we'll be here for 5 weeks. And that's going to be the start of us building next year's basketball team and laying the foundation of that team.